Hello there, and thanks for stopping by. This is Jennifer McGuire. A couple weeks ago, I showed you the new Hero Arts ombre inks, and I've gotten a lot of questions about them. I created a video over on the Hero Arts blog, and I thought I'd share it here just to be able to help some of you out if you had these questions too. So I'm going to show you how to use the Hero Arts ombre inks to create fun backgrounds and also to color stamped images, and just share some tips and tricks along the way. And again, of course, I got carried away and made a bunch of cards at once because I was having so much fun, and I'll show you the different backgrounds in this video. Before we dive into these cards, I wanted to give you a closer look at the ombre inks themselves. Hero Arts started the collection with 5 different color combinations. Now each of the ink pads, this is what it looks like, has 3 stripes of color on the ink pad itself. So there's a light, a medium, and a dark. And the formulation of these inks is the same as the Hero Arts shadow inks that so many people love, because when you stamp it, it looks a little uneven, dark, and splotchy, but as it dries, it ends up being solid and absolutely beautiful. So you can see the 5 different color combinations here, and you'll see me use several of these today. And you can see the lovely blending of color that you get from the light to the dark. We've been getting a lot of questions about how best to blend these inks and how to use them for background stamps, so I'm going to cover that in this video. Let's start with this rainbow background that you see here. It is so easy to do with these ombre ink pads. So I have a Hero Arts background. I'm starting with the pink to red ink pad, and watch, I'm kind of cha-chaing back and forth, going up and down slightly. That helps to blend the ink. So you can see that the stripes are going horizontal there, and I'm kind of going up and down with the ink pad to help blend it. Now I have the yellow to orange here, and I'm going to slightly overlap the inking that I did before, and watch, I'm going back and forth ever so slightly to make sure that those colors blend together. This will not harm your ink pad if you get a bit of the different color onto your ink pad. It doesn't matter at all. These inks will be fine. And by doing that little cha-cha back and forth, you really get good blending. So that last one there I used was, I believe, Pool to Navy. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on to some white cardstock. This is my favorite way to do background stamping. I put a piece of scrap paper over it. That way I can press it all around and I don't have to worry about getting any inks on my hands. So there we go. We pulled off, and check that right away. We get great blended color all the way from the pink all the way to the dark blue. Just absolutely beautiful. So this example shows how to get a rainbow effect with the ombre ink pads with using a few together. Next, let's look at a background that was created with one ombre ink pad. This is the pink to red. So I have an ombre ink pad here. I'm starting with the light pink at the top, and it works its way down to the dark. And I'm going to ink up the top of my stamp, and you can see I'm cha-chaing back and forth ever so slightly to help with the blending. Now I'm going to flip my ink pad around so that the dark stripe is at the top, and I'm overlapping that with where my dark ink already was. So now the light pink is at the bottom of where I'm inking. Now I'm going to flip my ink pad again so that the light pink is at the top, overlap a little bit with what I already have, and I'm going to end up with a background that goes from light pink to medium pink to dark pink and then back again. So it keeps blending between it, and you get a beautiful ombre background. Again, to make sure that this transfers all onto my pink cardstock, I'm putting some scrap paper on it. I'm going to press all around firmly. Remember, with this formulation, it'll look a little uneven and splotchy at first, but it'll dry beautifully blended. And there you can see that fun blending. On the left there, I did the exact same thing, but on white cardstock. So you can get a lot of different looks with these ombre ink pads on different colors of cardstock. I'll be honest, I've been really surprised by how many different ways you can use these ombre ink pads. So I showed you how to do a rainbow background, and here I did kind of a monochromatic background on colored cardstock and white. And I wanted to show you a few more things in this video also. But first, let's go ahead and do another example of using just one of the ombre ink pads on a background. Just going to change up how I do it, and this might be easier for some people. So I'm starting at the top and inking it up, cha-chaing back and forth ever so slightly so that I blend between the colors. Now instead of flipping the ink pad in my hand and getting confused, I'm just rotating the stamp. That way I can blend from one color to the next. And each time you want to kind of overlap with what you already have and do that little cha-cha. So again, keeping the ink pad still in my hand, not turning it, I'm turning the stamp this time. I think this might be easier for some people as opposed to trying to figure out the right orientation for the ink pad in your hand. Here I'm just putting some cardstock on it. I'm going to put that scrap paper over it and press it down firmly. Some people like to take their background stamps and mount it on a large acrylic block, but I find that this is the best way for me to get good coverage with my background stamps, but everybody is a little different. And check this out when I peel it off. I just think that's a beautiful variation of color that's perfect for an ocean-like background there. And here's the same ink and the same background stamp, but on white cardstock. I wanted to show you one more way to use the ombre ink pads on the background, and this is a little bit different because the color blends left to right instead of up to down. So I am just going to ink up my stamp, but in the opposite direction. Here I'm using the pink to red ink pad, and you can see me kind of going up and down a little bit here, kind of cha-chaing back and forth to help with the blending. Then I'm going to take the yellow to orange ink pad and use that on the other side of the stamp. The nice thing about the width of these background stamps is they're perfect for using 2 ink pads. You could just do pink to red and then rotate the stamp and then do red to pink if you wanted to, but I thought it'd be fun to use 2 of the colors here together. Now you can see I'm not taking much effort to ink up the stamp, just cha-cha back and forth, and you end up with good blending and good coverage. I have found that if you don't do that little back to forth kind of cha-cha action, you'll end up with straight lines of color and won't have good blending. So be sure to do that and check out how beautiful this is right off the get-go. And as that absorbs into the paper, it'll get even better. I just think that's gorgeous. Now before we move on to finishing these cards, let me just show you again all the backgrounds we made. Here we did the rainbow by using multiple ombre ink pads on one stamp. Here I did the inking from left to right instead of up to down to get a really beautiful color going across the card. Here is using one ombre ink pad on colored cardstock and then on white cardstock. I did a few of these also because I really like the look so much. And then we also have the same technique, the same one ink pad on one stamp on the colored cardstock and white. It's just beautiful, the variations that you can get. Next, I wanted to quickly show how you could use the ombre ink pads to color in stamped images like you see on the butterfly here. So I have a Hero Arts butterfly outline image. I'm inking it up with Versamark ink, and I'm going to white heat emboss this on white cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and do a bunch of these since I'm making lots of cards while I'm here. Now after I've heat embossed these, I'm going to actually color them very quickly using my ombre ink pads. By using the ink pad to colors in these images, I know that it'll perfectly match our background and I know I'll get great blending. So I have a little sponge dauber here. Any kind of inking tool or makeup applicator would work for this. I'm dabbing it on the lightest color of pink on the ombre ink and putting that on the outside edges of my butterfly. And then I'm going to move on to the medium color and add that overlapping a little bit with the first pink, allowing it to blend. And then I'll come in with the darkest color, like the red, towards the center of the butterfly. You can see that this easily blends because these inks are designed to blend with each other and are the perfect color combination. So on the other side of this butterfly, I'm going to do some of the yellow, and then I'll move on to the darker yellow and then the orange in the center. You could make this lighter by putting less pressure or darker by putting more if you want to. You could also take the ink pad and directly kind of smear it across the paper, direct to paper, but I really like the softness that you get by using some sort of ink applicator. And don't worry that it looks messy around the butterfly. I'll be cutting these out. Let me just show you one more of these and how quick it is to color with the ombre inks. So I'm doing the light pink on the outside of this guy, and then I'm going to put the medium pink next to that. And each time you want to make sure that you blend overlapping the two. By overlapping the inks, it really helps with getting a good blend. And then I'm going to go in with the darkest color in the center, the red, and we're good to go. That's all it takes, and it perfectly matches that background that you see over there on the left. Now that I have my butterflies colored, I wanted to show you how I created this dimensional butterfly that you see here. Now these butterflies from Hero Arts actually have matching dies to cut them out, which you'll see me use in a moment. But first I want to just take the butterfly and fussy cut right up against the edge. We're going to use the die to create a layer for this instead of actually cutting it out itself. Here's the stamp set I used, and the stamp set actually comes with the matching die. And you can see the die is slightly bigger than the stamp, so you end up, when you die cut one of the stamped images, you end up with a white trim. But instead of doing that today, I'm going to use the die to cut a layer to go behind my stamped image. So I have some white cardstock that I'm going to die cut with this butterfly. And now I have a layer to go behind my stamped image. I'm going to put dimension between it. And this is just a great way to take a plain stamped image and turn it into a really fun dimensional embellishment. Now I actually wanted even one more layer behind that, a vellum layer of butterfly, and I needed it slightly bigger than the white die cut one. So what I'm doing is tracing my die onto vellum, and then I'm going to cut that out. By tracing the die, this ends up with that perfect butterfly shape that is slightly bigger than the white die cut we just created. Because remember, the cutting line of this die is on the inside of the die, and I am tracing the outside. So this vellum butterfly will be even bigger than the butterflies we already have. And we can layer those pieces up and create a fun embellishment. Now you could make this card so much faster to put together if you just did the one butterfly and left it there, but check this out. You've got the vellum in the background, the white on top of that, and then the colored one on top of that. And once we put some dimension between each of those layers, this guy is really going to pop off our card and be beautiful. So I'm putting adhesive just at the center of each of these layers so that I can tuck some dimensional adhesive in the behind the wings once we have our card together. Now for some of these butterflies, I did a stitch down the center with my sewing machine, but you could just use adhesive if you want to. I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this and go ahead and glue it onto our background and onto our card. And then we can start adding some dimension behind the wings and also add a sentiment. For the sentiment, I'm using this, actually it's a holiday set from Hero Arts that has some great sentiments on it. I'm going to stamp those with black ink on some white cardstock strips. Now once I've done this, I'm going to add them on top of my butterfly with some dimension. We're putting lots of dimension on this butterfly. And I decided to use tiny pieces of foam tape. I like using a big roll of foam tape and then cutting the sizes that I need for my card. I'm actually cutting 2 very small pieces and layering them on top of each other. And this will be a place for our sentiment to sit on top of this butterfly because we're about to add a lot of dimension behind the wings. So now I'm going to add my strip across here, but I decided I wanted to trim the ends. And I wanted a little V on each end, a little kind of flag finish. So I'm cutting the ends, and this is the trick that I use for that. I do a cut right down the center, a short cut, then a cut from the corner to the end of that cut in the center. And then I do it on the other side too. So I've added that onto my card. Don't worry, everything's a little wiggly right now. We're going to fix that in a moment. Now I'm going to cut little pieces of that foam tape and I'm going to tuck them between all the butterfly wing layers. Remember we created 3 layers to this butterfly? I wanted to put foam in between each so that they really would stand up and kind of stand apart. So we're creating this fun dimensional embellishment on each of the cards. When I mail cards like this, I like to use a piece of padding in the envelope to make sure that this doesn't get messed up, or mail it in a padded envelope. But I really think the dimension is definitely worth it. And now I'm going to go ahead and tuck some foam adhesive on the other side of the butterfly too. Now since we have all these layers, I don't want any of this popping off in the mail. So I'm going to go and squirt some super strong adhesive in between all of these layers just to make sure they don't come undone. I use the Ranger Multi-Medium, but you could use Glossy Accents or whatever other strong adhesive that you like. And once that dries, that won't move one bit. Now I wanted to show you how you could also add some antenna onto the butterflies. I just took a piece of white string, folded it in half, squirted some strong liquid adhesive underneath that little banner there, and then I'm going to just put the end of that folded string right in there and let that dry. And when it dries, you have these 2 pieces sticking up. You can trim them shorter if you want to, and it's a perfect antenna for that cute little butterfly. And I just think it's awesome how the coloring on that butterfly perfectly matches that background thanks to those ombre ink pads. So now that you've seen how these butterflies come together, let me just show you what I did with those wave backgrounds real quick. There are some wonderful anchor stamps with matching dies that were perfect for these backgrounds. So I did the same thing of layering all 3 of the layers together and adding that onto the card, putting some dimension between each layer, of course. So there's a way to use your ombre ink pads to create fun backgrounds and also color in stamped images. As always, I have more information over at my blog on jennifermcguireinc.com, and also I have all the products that I use linked in my YouTube description below. If you have questions, just leave a comment below and I'll try to answer them. And also be sure to check out my other Hero Arts ombre ink video. It might be helpful too. Thanks for watching.